Yeah! What's up, folks? How's it going? Yes, I am his long-lost cousin. That's where my dad went all the way back in 1985. Thank you. It only took me getting into my comedy career to find him. Most people lose their parents when they come into this. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to preface this. So, I'm going to tell you a story about when I got stabbed. Now, when I tell this story, people seem to tense up a little bit. So I just want to make one thing clear. I'm not a ghost. Okay? I lived through this experience, so we don't have to debate on whether or not it's totally fine. I'm also really not that much of a victim in it, so you don't have to feel bad for me. So I used to run an open mic, because there's no reason to try in comedy, but I didn't know that yet. I was young. Yeah, it was my first open mic. It was my first open mic and the last time I respected my peers. You don't want to see how the sandwich gets made, right? Like you're going to see that the sandwich gets drunk too much and the sandwich doesn't write any material. It sucks. But so I was running an open mic, and there was one week I was there with my ex. It was after the open mic, we were having a conversation about whether or not we wanted to ruin our lives again. And, kind of we're just trading, our updates over the last 2 months. Have we made any progress? And in walks this guy is a regular at the bar. His name is George. Now, George is Puerto Rican, so his name is Jorge, but he goes by George. So we're going to call him Puerto Rican George for this, because it sounds fun, right? It's a story about getting stabbed, so it needs to be a little bit light. So Puerto Rican George is a very drunk pool player regular, and we kind of tolerate him because we have to. There's really no other reason. He's friends with the owner and he pays cash, so we're fucked. He came in and he started hitting on my girlfriend, and I was like doing kind of like the, just letting her do her thing. She's like, I got this. And he kept hitting on her, and she was like, no, I got this. And she'd go to him and be like, no, thank you. And he'd keep hitting on her, and I was like, okay, I don't got this. And so, I don't know if you ever had this experience where you have like a special child over at at the ridge of the Grand Canyon, but you just kind of grab him real hard, and you care about him, but you're being a little forceful. And I just moved him over to the bar, and I bought him a beer. And that was it. I left. Next week, come back. My girlfriend and I, did not solve the Third World War. We did not figure out the United Nations that night. I was drinking. I was talking to the bartender after the mic. He was an ex-roommate of mine. That's sort of how it goes. George comes back in. George is rowdy with his rowdy group of friends and everything, and I've had a few too many cups, and I'm a comic. So I was like, I got a good joke for George. I was like, hey, George, I got a joke for you. Can I tell you a joke? He said nothing. I didn't care. I was going to ruin his night because he'd done that a week before. And I said, George, mira, hijo de puta, concha tu madre, la puta que te parió. Por esto la gente odia a los puertorriqueños porque vienen y cagan a todo y no hacen a todos los hispanos ver mal. What that essentially translates to is, please don't do that again. And then, second mistake, I guess. Third mistake, including the open mic. A laundry list of mistakes already. I got into comedy, I turn around. As soon as I turn around, George punches me in the back of the head. As is his right. So I turn around and I tried to take his life from him. So a little backstory. Every male in my family was a ballet instructor. Except for me, because my mom wanted a masculine child. So she put me in figure skating. One of the things you learn in figure skating, interestingly, is how to fight. Especially back in the 90s, people weren't woke. So we end up in a tussle on the ground, and I am less drunk than George, so I'm on top. No sex reference. One of his buddies grabbed me from my arms from behind, and George sort of like flails, and his buddy lets me go. I was like, ooh, perfect. I'm free again. And George takes off, and I start running out of the bar to chase him, and I was like, ooh, I've been smoking cigarettes for 20 years. So he got away. He got into a car, and I saw him, and I was like, fuck, wait, stop! And I get back into the bar, and I'm kind of like yelling at the bar. I was like, why didn't you help or anything? And he's like, hey, you may want to go to the bathroom and check yourself out. And I was like, fuck you. That's my response. And so I stormed out, and I left everything, right? Like, I left my wallet, I was just mad, whatever. It starts to rain. I started thinking of everything. I was like, I just got into a fist fight at an open mic. After everyone left, there's no witnesses? Fucking what the fuck? What am I doing with my life? Just depressed. It's like, okay, I gotta get home, and I realize, all of a sudden, I light a cigarette, that there's a little bit of blood on my hand. And I was like, ooh, I got George good. Nice. And then it starts to rain a little bit, and I feel like some stinging on my neck. And I was like, shit, so I zip up my coat, and I zipped up my coat a little bit. And then my hand was covered in red. I was like, oh, ooh. I don't think I need a mirror for this one, Taylor. I was like, okay, this is bad. My phone's dead. My wallet's, I'm totally screwed. It's raining. An actual cab, like one of the 3 last cabs in all of Chicago comes by. Here's the other problem. As I referenced, I'm not close with my dad. So I get a little testy around other Middle Easterners. So long story short, I kick myself out of this cab now too. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm not meant for this world. And I knew it was bad. I could tell. I was like, fuck it. You know what? Like, I've been suicidal my whole life. Like, maybe these are the cards I was dealt, right? I'm like, fuck it. I'll just go home and I'll lay down. And I got in there and I was like, you know what? I gotta at least fight my way out, right? I was like, I've seen World War II movies. I know what a tourniquet is. I'm gonna give it the old college try, right? Yeah, proof that I failed out of college is trying to tourniquet. So this is the fucked up part too, is because I'm not exactly like keeping up with my life, so my rags and tourniquet belts are all just t-shirts that I've used to come into. I'm just like, okay, well, like, what's the cleanest jizz rag to wrap around my neck? And I got it on, I did the stick thing, and I got it on real tight, and I'm just sitting there on my bed that's on the floor, just like, what the fuck is going on in my life? And then I started to get faint, and I was like, oh yeah, because the tourniquet cuts off the blood supply. So, and I'm sorry about running on a little bit long on this, just to wrap it up. So I wrap this all up just a little bit. I was like, fuck, okay, I gotta see, this is bad, I gotta see. So I look in the mirror, and there's just a hole right here in the bottom of my throat. And apparently George has seen movies too, because he did that thing where he stabbed and twisted. It was a nice little triangle. It was a neat little triangle. And that was when I found my will to live. Shockingly. But in a weird way though, because it's like it's still coming from a suicidal place. So I was like, no one kills me but me! Like, fuck this, I'm not dying because of horseshit. Can't even name himself. What the fuck? It was like, this is... And yeah, and I was right about to move out. And one last thing is to tell you this. In the 80s, there was a wrestler called Bruiser Brody. And he got stabbed in Puerto Rico. And when he was taken to the hospital, his friend, Tony Atlas, this big, giant bodybuilder guy, picked up a doctor and moved the doctor over and put him down next to Bruiser Brody so he could fix him. Because as soon as I decided that I was going to live, I passed out. And thankfully, I had a giant 6'3", 240-pound roommate named Tina that is now my Tina Atlas, who just like threw me on her shoulder, called the cops instead of an ambulance because she knew I was broke and I couldn't afford that. And they threw me in the back, and the next part is about me trying to make my Asian nurse laugh is a whole nother Campfire story. Sorry for running the light, but I had to do it. Thank you guys so much for letting me tell this story.
Andre Hastrom, everybody.